Hello, everyone, and welcome to Soul Talk. This is the first week that we're going to have my worlds collide from different YouTube channels. I have my producer from the pop culture universe and also the Ultimate Schmoedown show, Sean. How you doing today?
I'm good. I was actually just jamming out to your music over there. I like your intro music. That's good. Where'd you get it?
Off of YouTube.
It was very soothing. It does match the kind of dolphins in the background, so it kind of was like, yeah, I'm feeling this. That was pretty good.
That's actually a picture from Marco Island that I took. So that
Oh,
sunset is something that I got to see live. So a little backstory for anyone watching Soul Talk. That's a real live picture.
but I assume the dolphins were
The
not real.
dolphins are fake. The
Okay,
dolphins in the chair is fake.
okay, fair. Just trying to clarify. Just clarifying. Yeah.
I have seen dolphins before in the Gulf of Mexico, but I haven't taken any pictures of them, unfortunately. Typically, it's when you're in Tampa and you're driving over, there's this bridge that is right on the water. Instead of being like a bridge, it's literally like level with the water, and you have dolphins like sometimes coming out, so they're literally right next to you.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
I've not had the pleasure. I've not had the pleasure. I like to
Well,
someday. It's when all this is over at
Well,
some
if
point.
you ever want to step foot into Florida, that's something to look forward to for Florida. I know there's not a bunch on who most people talk about.
Well, I've been to Florida. I just never been like fishing or swimming with the dolphins or anything like that. I've been to Florida many times, but
Well, as you guys may know, this show we can go off on tangents just like that, but we also talk about different types of media, books, TV, movies. We will be talking WandaVision spoilers at the end of this episode, so if you have not seen all four episodes, definitely check out at that time, then come back after you've seen it. But if you don't care about the spoilers, it'll be right there for you just to watch at the end.
no, you should
So
care about the spoilers. That show is pretty good, so I don't want to spoil it for anybody. So please watch the episodes 1 through 4. They're all available on Disney Plus. Binge it and then come back and Harris talk about it.
definitely, definitely. So we're going to go into our recent books. So, Sean, what have you recently read this week?
Oh well, it's a brand new book, so I've been getting into Star Wars a little bit as much as I possibly can, because I've been more or less just a general movie watcher of Star Wars, but I do love the franchise, and because of like the obviously the Mandalorian has come out, that's like kind of their first live action show. I really haven't dived too much into the animation world, and I used to watch Clone Wars when it first came out, and I just petered off after a while. But hearing the conversation going on and on about it makes me more curious to go reinvestigate it. And one night I was flipping through Amazon, and I came across this book, Star Wars: The Lightsaber Collection. So pretty much this book kind of just breaks down. Oh, there you go. It breaks down all of the lightsabers in the history of the Star Wars universe as we know now. So it kind of just talks about each Jedi or each Sith or anybody who's actually had one. They show images of them and give you a little bit of backstory about the person. So for me, a lot of these people are new, or and also some from video games as well. So a lot of these people are new to me, and their lightsabers are fascinating. So I have bought a lot of lightsabers because I'm lucky enough to live in California, and I go to Disneyland, so I go to Galaxy's Edge when it was open, of course. I've bought 3 lightsabers, and I've had my wait. What? I have 3. I bought 2, built my own. I would
Oh,
like to get
nice.
more once Disneyland reopens. So this book is just kind of just like, oh, I'm curious to learn more about other lightsabers that potentially are for sale. I know there was a rumor at some point that Rey's lightsaber that she showed off at the end of Rise of Skywalker is going to be available at some point. If that's the case, I want it. Take my money. So that's a book I've been kind of reading. So yeah, when I saw that book, I was just like, yeah, give it to me. I want it because I'm fascinated about lightsabers because I want to collect as many as I possibly can, even though they do cost a pretty penny. So
Yeah, that was gonna be one of my questions is how much did that set you back and whose lightsabers do you have?
I'm trying to. I have uh, Ventress. I can't remember her first name right
Oh,
now.
Asajj Ventress.
Yeah, only because just the way it looks, the way it's
Yeah.
like bent like that,
Mm-hmm.
it just looks great. And I think, and I built one, and I think I have Ben Solo's
Okay.
lightsaber. Yeah,
And my other question is this book kind of came out in the canon, or was this more back when Legends books were coming out? So whose characters is it going into?
it's going into pretty much, as far as I understand, flipping through. I think it's going through all of them. Like any lightsaber that's ever been shown or made,
Oh,
they're showing it. So like all the Jedi's, all the Sith. So kind of like as an example here, who's a
because
good one to
I
show
know
off?
that back in Legends, the lightsaber color had a meaning. I forget if they've brought that into canon or not, because I know a lot of times now with canon, they're bringing in some legend stuffs and bringing them back into
Oh
canon.
Jesus.
There you go. But
Um,
does it talk about the meanings of the lightsaber colors as well?
yeah, it does. It actually breaks it down. So like this is obviously this is Anakin's lightsaber before he went to the dark side, and then it actually this part flips out,
Oh,
and then you can
cool.
see it kind of when Ray had it as well.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
So yeah, then if it's having stuff with like Ray and stuff, then that's came out after canon. I
yeah.
really want to, and I have to do some more research on this. If the lightsabers color still means something now in the Star Wars canon, or if that was just a Legends thing.
So this is a character that I'm not familiar with, but you guys may
Ezra
be.
Bridger.
Yeah. So then that's his, and then that one flips out.
That one's a
So
very interesting lightsaber.
it does look
Animated.
interesting. So it's like it's things like that, just like, oh, this makes me want to watch Rebels more now.
I've For all you guys to know, I have given Sean the chronological orders for Clone Wars, and that is his first Star Wars homework that he has now. And
Yeah,
maybe after he finishes watching Clone Wars, he'll come back and tell us his thoughts on it.
abs. Yeah, I would love to do that. Yeah. So look, there's Leia's lightsaber. There's Leia. There's her lightsaber there. Right
That's
there.
one thing I liked
Yeah.
about Rise of Skywalker is that it confirmed that she did train as a Jedi and that she
Yep.
had a lightsaber. Because I know there's a lot of things in that movie that I liked, even though I didn't like fully like that movie completely. But there's elements, and that's one of the elements I really enjoyed.
It's got its issues, but it tried. It set
Yeah,
up. It tried, but it failed. But that's fine. So it actually asks questions like, "What is a lightsaber?" It asks questions like, yeah, I'm just kind of going through it. The Jedi tradition, the design,
and
like
talk about the kyber
training.
crystals and where they come from and things of that nature.
Absolutely. Yep.
It, I know Colin and Boggs will be happy that you are getting more into Star Wars. That's over on the Pop Culture Universe. Those are our co-hosts over there, and they also have the show We Have the High Ground that comes out every Friday. So also go check that out. Since we're speaking of Star Wars,
Yeah, I promised them I would watch Clone Wars before the mid part of this year, so I will try to keep my word and get that done. I haven't started yet, but I will. I will. But it's gonna be hard because with WandaVision and then Falcon and Winter Soldier and then Loki and then
right?
oh boy, it just never ends at this point. But I'll squeeze it in some point.
Well, Star Wars will be coming back a little bit later in this episode, but we'll go into my recent read, which is a book called When My Name Was Kyoko. So, if you guys watched last week, and those are all the three different types of covers for this book. But
Oh,
if you
okay.
watched last week, I talked about the book Kim Ji Young, born 1982, and that book was set in Korea. And I kind of was just like, I want to read another book set in Korea. So this is a book that I read back in elementary school, and by Linda Sue Park. and I realized how much I loved her writing back then, and it was nice to get back into her writing style. This is a book that's set in World War II and goes back and forth between the POVs of a brother and sister that is living in Japanese occupied Korea.
Hmm.
And you really see some of the like atrocities that like Japan does to Korea and which happened through all different Southeast Asian countries. Like they could no longer speak Korean in public. They had to change their names to Japanese names. They burned down all these Korean trees called Rose of Sharon trees and forced people to plant Japanese cherry blossoms. They were forced to give away their possessions like metal and food and things like that that would go to the Japanese army. So literally, like they were like, "Oh, you guys are Japanese and you were going to pray to the emperor and you guys are in service of the emperor, but you're lesser citizens because you're not actually Japanese. And so we're going to take everything away from you to give to either people in Japan or give to people in the Japanese military." And then also you see sometimes it's hinted at because it's a children's story. It doesn't really go into it, but it's hinted at like there's 17-year-old girls were pulled out of school, and then she in the like, oh, what is it, the acknowledgments or the like the epilogue kind of thing at the end of the book was talking of like, oh, these are the girls who ended up having to be in service of the
Okay.
Japanese military. So and it's kind of funny that it reminded me of this comedian. His name is Ronnie Chang, and he has a Netflix special called Asian Comedian Destroys America. And
Okay.
he, he
Okay.
he grew up in Singapore, Malaysia, and Australia, and then moved to the United States in 2015. And like he jokes about all the different like Asian stereotypes, and he jokes about like he was just like, we need an Asian president because we are open when everyone else is closed. He's like, Thanksgiving doesn't mean shit to me. We'll get shit done, kind of like. So he's like making all these like really funny jokes. Highly recommend seeing his comedy special. But one of the things that he talked about too, he goes, people in the West don't really know this, but Chinese people and Japanese people have like beef stretching from World War II. Because in World War
Yes.
II, Japan did tons of war atrocities to Chinese people: rape, torture, human experimentation, the whole nine yards. China, all the way down Southeast Asia, Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, Philippines, Vietnam, Indonesia. And people in the West don't really know this because there's no Schindler's List for Chinese people, okay? No one made a dope black and white movie about it in the West, so it's not common knowledge. Okay, if you grew up in Singapore like I did, they never let you forget it. In Singapore, it's never forget they did that, never forget they did that shit. Every year, a new documentary drama series detailing the atrocities that happened during the Japanese occupation of Southeast Asia. Never forget they did that. And if you grew up in Singapore and Malaysia with that swirling around in your head and you go visit Japan for the first time, right? With a lifetime of that stuff still in your head, and you're in Japan and everyone's super polite and friendly, and there's like Sailor Moon, right? And there's toilets that wash your ass. You can't help but wonder, how did these guys go from rape, torture, and human experimentation to Pokemon in one generation?
I mean, a lot of that is basically like they didn't weren't allowed to make nuclear weapons, so a lot of their money and resources went from war to just building up the country. So
Right.
that's why a lot of technology came from Japan. But I trust me, I understand the difference between when you talk about Chinese and Japanese culture in the sense that I spent a summer in China when I was a teenager. So the worst thing you could do is call someone from China Japanese is from Japanese Chinese. That's the worst thing you could do.
Yeah.
So I had to learn that very very quick as a teenager going over there. So I totally get it, and I can understand why some Americans wouldn't know because there's a lot of Americans, unfortunately, that don't even know our own history, let alone somebody else's that in a country that most likely they'll never go to. So unfortunately, it is what it is.
And it's one of these things that it was glad that I got to revisit an author that I really enjoy and a book that I really enjoy. But my goals these past few years is to diversify my reading and not just like read books from diverse authors, but also from like set in different countries. And then like last week's book was actually originally written in Korean, and then was I read the English translation. This one was written by a Korean American author, so it was written in English, but her parents actually went through Japanese occupied Korea. So some of the stories that you see, like they were like, "Oh, we're gonna make all the kids feel happy by giving them rubber balls." Because we had just taken over the Philippines, and so we got all of
Oh,
those
okay.
like trees and made rubber balls. So we're gonna give them to them, so that way they're happy to be part of the Japanese Empire, kind of thing. And so those like little stories there are actual stories that her parents told her growing up.
Gotcha. I'm curious. So you said you read this first when you were in elementary school.
Yes.
How did that book find you then?
So it was in my library. It is middle grade, and I always was read above my reading level. Like I had a higher reading level than the grades I was in.
Hmm.
So I think this is more written for someone, like it even says like 12 and up is what it was written for. And I think I read it when I was like 9 or 10 years old.
Okay.
So like I was around the age of what it's written for, and that's why it doesn't go deeply into those 17-year-olds getting raped or any of that. Like it doesn't go into that.
I wouldn't
Those
think so.
17-year yeah, like it really keeps it as at a more understandable level for a child,
Yeah.
but it's still a very interesting and important read as an adult, and you can enjoy it a lot as an adult as well.
Okay, that's great. That's
And
great.
I love that there's stories like this that are at that level for children, because I think more we don't people don't give children enough credit, that they actually understand a lot more than what we give them credit for, and that there should be stories like this for children to read, because I think it makes the world a better place when you know about different cultures.
Oh, 1,000%, 1,000%. I hate the fact that, especially in this country, that a lot of people who make content dumb it down for kids. Like, oh, we have to put like poop and fart jokes in anything that's animated because those are the only kind of jokes that kids understand. Like, no, 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 no. You have to. Kids are smarter than we always give them credit for. And I wish that people would just talk to kids instead of talking down to them. And I
Right,
think that's what a lot of people do. But you a kid will respect you more if you talk to them, and
right.
then they catch on very very quickly. They know the difference. So I like it's some movies that are that that cater down to them. Like what's a good example? That emoji movie is like
Yeah.
kids are smarter than that. Yes, of course. If you throw a poop joke in there, they're gonna laugh at it. But do you need poop jokes in your movies?
No.
AKA Pixar and Disney, they don't have poop jokes in their movies, and kids love those. So I
Right.
mean, you don't have to like. And Pixar says they don't make kid movies; they make family-friendly movies because the whole family's going to those movies. So you want to put jokes in there for kids, but then you always want to put jokes in there for the adults who have to take the kids to the movie. Otherwise, the adult is just sitting there like poop joke. Oh God, another poop. Whatever. I'm falling asleep. Like I remember when I was a kid, my aunt took us to see Who Framed Roger Rabbit when
Oh
that came
wow.
out. Now, I was laughing as a kid over it with jokes that I shouldn't have been laughing at. But because your kids don't know any better, the jokes are going right over. Like it's like my brain knows that's a joke. I'm supposed to laugh, so I did, not knowing the real meaning behind why I'm laughing until you get older. You're like, oh, that's what they're really like. Okay, but again, and it's the same thing now. Like you go to see any animated Pixar movie, whatever. There are jokes there that kids are laughing at, not knowing the real reason why it's funny.
Right.
Like there's always a extra layer in there that's not for them until you get older. You're like, oh, that's what it means. Got it. So I just wish we wouldn't, treat our kids as like we got to dumb it down for them because you're a kid. No, 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 no. I wish it's just
Yeah.
unfortunate.
And I remember not just like movies, but like music that I used to listen to where like I didn't get what they were actually talking about. And it was just like, oh, I listened to that music or I watched that movie and I didn't get this joke that is definitely meant for adults, or this music that definitely was meant for an adult's ear, and I'm over here just like, oh, I'm just jamming to the music, or I'm enjoying this movie.
Yeah, it's subtext. I mean, you can put that in there, and then everyone could enjoy it. If you dumb things down, you're not really the kids are laughing, but only at a certain level. And then what are the adults are doing? Basically taking a nap. It's empty calories, and they're just sitting there. Like
Yeah.
when is this movie over? Looking at their watch. But in Pixar, especially Pixar, and then maybe Disney, and then everybody else go down the line. There's jokes in there specifically for adults.
Hmm.
Like if you watch Zootopia, like that was a Disney movie, not a Pixar movie. But that movie has tons and tons of adult jokes and cultural references that some kids would get, but adults will definitely get. So I mean, it's just I hate that our culture has to dumb it down for kids. We don't give our kids enough credit.
Although I hope that, like with Pixar and with Disney, that it's showing that it's viable to not dumb it down. And I've just seen a lot of, like, I'm so excited for Raya the Last Dragon to come out. I think that's going to be a really cool movie that doesn't dumb things down for kids. So I see a trend going in the right direction.
Well, yeah, their trend, but then there's
Yeah.
all these other movies that just like no poop fart jokes, like stupid jokes, dumb it down, like back in I hate to age myself, but back like in the '80s and stuff like that, they didn't really worry about that kind of stuff. They just was like there was some dark animated movies like like I'm trying to remember what was that
The
one
Sword in the Stone, or
sort of there's a lot of dark ones. You're like, oh
yeah.
my god, that's an animated movie. But it's things like the Rescuers were kind of dark a little bit. A lot of those things back then were just like, yeah, just take caution to the wind. Like look at like the Little Mermaid. Ursula gets stabbed in the stomach. It's like,
And
um,
you don't catch that as a kid, and now as an adult, you're like, oh shit.
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things going on there. But that they understand. They understand. I just wish other animated movies would do the same. But
Hopefully, hopefully. But speaking of movies, why don't we go into your recent movie watch, Sean?
so unfortunately I haven't been watching a lot of movies lately. So by default, the last one I watched was Wonder Woman 1984. Yeah, there she is. So that was the last movie I watched. I was really, really excited to watch this movie. Unfortunately, we had to watch it at home because, of course, COVID. It was supposed to come out in the theaters wide, but unfortunately, that did not. Well, it came out in theaters some places, but most
Right.
places did not. So I had to watch it on my television. And I loved the original Wonder Woman. Loved it. The third act,
Yeah.
but everybody says that. But
Yeah.
for me, overall, I loved Wonder Woman, and that's one thing that DC could always hang their hat on. They came out with the first modern, not the first female superhero movie, but the first modern one.
Mhm.
Before Marvel did, and then Marvel came out with Captain Marvel, and then we're getting Black Widow, and we got Ant-Man and the Wasp and things like that. So they can hold their hat on that, and it was a very good movie. I really really liked it, and because they brought Patty Jenkins back and Gal Gadot back, I'm thinking, hey, we're in for another good one. And then the first couple of minutes when we start seeing the mascara, and then as Dan as a kid in this training sequence, I'm like, all right, I'm enjoying this already. I can't wait for more of it. And then as the movie went along, I just was just like, oh what? Oh yeah. Well, it's still going. Like, why is that movie almost 3 hours?
Yeah.
I just don't know. It was really really disappointing. I don't know if Warner Brothers interfered with Patty Jenkins well, I know they gave her some notes about the beginning. So we had the Themyscira opening, and then it jumped to the mall scene, and then we go into the movie. So Warner Brothers gave her a note saying, "I don't think you need both of those. You need to cut one of them." And she said no. So they kept both. Even though I love both those scenes, I do agree with Warner Brothers. One of them should go, and if it were up to me, it would be the mall one. The mall one doesn't really
Yeah.
add anything significant to the movie. Like, yes, they steal the stuff from the store, which didn't make a lot of sense, but whatever. You could have done that in a completely different way. I don't know. It's just me, but the movie has other problems all in itself. Like the villains, like Cheetah. Eh, I really didn't buy her character. Maxwell Lord was kind of interesting, but not really. I would have loved if they did where. And sorry if I'm talking a
Yeah,
lot.
go. Keep going. Yeah.
I wish they would have done it where instead of them accidentally getting a wish and then not knowing what's going on, is that Maxwell Lord figured it out first, and then
Hmm.
kind of like tried to manipulate them. Like, what does your heart desire? Oh, you want to bring Steve Trevor back? No, I'll make it happen to
Oh,
kind
that
of
would have
get
been
you out of the
so
way.
good.
And then Cheetah, what do you do? Oh, you want to be powerful? Yes, I'll make that happen for you. Like that to me makes more sense to get at least Wonder Woman, get her out of the way while she's like caught up with Steve, and understanding that Maxwell gave it to her, and then it could be taken away, versus then her just not understanding like how'd you get it? I don't know. I don't know. Like them, and then so just to me, it would have added more stakes and emotion. The fact that that's something that she actively wanted, and someone gave it to her, and then now she has to give it away, versus just being like I'm just gonna make a random wish. I don't know if this is gonna come true or not. And then, oh my god, it did. And then the
Right.
way they came up, like him taking over another person's body, why would you do that? Why wouldn't you just manifest him? Like
Right.
the fact that he's just like hijacking another guy's body, and then the guy has no recollection of what's going on.
And also, like, let's say she never gave it back, so that guy doesn't exist
Yeah,
anymore.
exactly. You just like
Like,
stole that guy's life. You just stole like, well, you stole 2 weeks, or whatever how long the
yeah,
movie took place. So just hijacked him. What if his family was looking for him? Like, where'd he go? I don't know.
yeah, because I don't
So
think Steve was answering his phone or any of those
he doesn't know
things.
what a phone is. He doesn't know what any of those. And also, with that, that's a good segue to the fact that the movie's called Wonder Woman 1984. Why weren't there more references to 80s culture? Like they touched on it a little bit. Obviously, with the Cold War stuff, I get that's fine. But with Steve, like the first Wonder Woman movie was a fish out of water movie, and a lot of that movie was jokes and setups for Diana because she's never been in man's world. So just her understanding and then being told how things work. So if you're gonna put Steve in the exact same position as her, and the movie's 2.5 hours, why wouldn't you focus a little bit more on Steve understanding and then trying to teach him how 1984 actually works?
That's
Like,
what I thought was going to be happening in the movie because I was like, oh, it's going to be another fish out of water. And I will say I enjoyed watching this movie when I was watching it, but there was moments that I was just like, this is not as good as the first one. I love the first movie. Obviously, everyone has their like problems with the third act. I call Wonder Woman like a two-thirds of a perfect movie.
that's fair.
Because I think the first two-thirds are so great, and we know that Warner Brothers got the reason with the third act is that Warner Brothers like went in there. The third act is pretty much
Yeah,
because of Warner Brothers. So I had no fault on Patty Jenkins, and that's why I was so excited for this movie. I was like, hopefully, like Warner Brothers sees, oh, she made the money. She did this great movie. People love the movie. We're gonna let her do. So I don't know how much they tinkered in there. Maybe that's why they allowed her to have both those scenes because they're like, okay, we're just gonna trust her. Who knows? I wasn't in the room. And
that's true.
but
But I mean, also,
this movie kind of
okay,
like I had questions at the end, and that was too like this guy lost a few weeks of his life, and that. okay, that's interesting. Steve's back, and I like to see Steve and Diana and those stuff. But I agree with you. It's like the villains kind of were met to me, and Pedro Pascal, who I love with all of my heart, and especially like as a Mandalorian and all the things that like in Narcos and
Could be
everything that
better.
he's been, I felt he was overacting a lot. To me, it was like he was acting, and then like the note that he was given was like more. And so then he kept giving more, and they were like, no, 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 more. And it seemed like way too over the top for me.
But I actually like that. I interpret it as like one of those like late night TV like angelical like priest or whatever that's trying to like hype you up and like if you want more I can give you more, like trying to sell you something. He's a showman, he's a salesman. So to me it makes sense, especially in the 80s, that he would act that way, like so over the top, because he's trying to like overcompensate for the fact that he's a shitty salesman. So I didn't mind that. I get why you think that. Like I could totally understand that. But for me, it worked. But at the end, what did he really like? He learned. Did he learn his lesson or didn't he? Like what happened to him, and what
Right.
happened to Cheetah? And there's rumor now that she's going to be in the third one. Well, how?
Yeah.
So that was in 1984. This movie now, and it's gonna supposed to take place in modern time now. We're in the 2020s now.
Grandma Cheetah?
I don't. Well, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. And the fact that her progression also didn't make any sense. So all of a sudden she's
Yeah.
this mild-mannered, woman that no one's paying attention. She's the ugly, pretty woman. And I really don't. That trope is so bad. Like,
I
oh, she
hate
has
it so
glasses, or
much.
just her hair is not made, or whatever. And like, oh,
I'm
no
now
one's.
instantly uglier, guys. I put glasses on. I'm
Oh
uglier now.
no!
Oh
Oh
no.
no! Oh wait! So oh my god! Who's that? There's no glasses. Oh my god! Or if you just mess up your hair and then just
Yeah.
oh my, oh, who's that? Oh my
Yeah,
god!
I hate the whole like we're gonna get this beautiful woman and then it's the trope that she's ugly. I It's not believable. Like
No.
you look and you're like, that woman is beautiful. Why the hell is anyone thinking just because she's a little bit of longer skirt and she's wearing glasses, she's ugly? What the hell?
Yeah. So I mean, if you're gonna use that trope, try harder. Like
Yeah.
physically do something to her. Like make it more believable that you wouldn't give her a second look, which isn't.
Mhm.
It is. It's no. It is what it is.
And
But
what you see a lot too when they say like, "Oh, this is an ugly woman," like, and then they have a transformation to becoming beautiful. Like it's always they had like curly hair or something, and then now that they have straight hair, they're beautiful. Or now that they're no longer wearing glasses, they're beautiful. And it's just like, what message are you trying to send here?
that if you wear
As someone
glasses, you're not pretty. That's what they're
and
saying.
someone as with curly hair too. Like I guess this is not
Straighten it.
considered.
Straighten
Yeah,
it. And get and put on a dress, or a better dress is
yeah.
basically what they're saying. Yeah, I just didn't buy her character development. Like she went from this mild mannered woman just trying to do her job, and then she's like beating up this guy in the alley. Like I get that he assaulted her, and one woman had to save her, but like that's pretty dark, to like beating the shit out of him to the point where she could have killed him. Like that's a really dark turn. And then you kind of, for that to work, you have to tease that she has that kind of evilness in her before she realizes her power. Because otherwise it's like, yeah, I get power corrupts people, I get that, but there has to be a seed of that in her before you move along. Like a good example is in Batman Returns with Selena Kyle. So before she turns into Catwoman, when Batman is doing his thing, and that clown kind of grabs her and holds her, and he knocks him out, she zaps him with the taser. She takes his taser and she zaps him even though he's unconscious. There's the seed. So once she then fully turns into Catwoman, it's more believable than she would like just go to that next level. For me, with a cheetah, it made no sense that she would just go like from la 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 la. Oh, I have powers now. Just I want to kill. I want to just take everything over. Like, nah, that doesn't make any sense. That's lazy writing, and unfortunately, Patty Jenkins helped write this script. So a lot of these criticisms, unfortunately, have to fall on her and Jeffrey John. So I don't know like who wrote more, or I mean,
Yeah.
obviously the majority of the script is between the two of them. So just Cheetah's develop, and it goes to the same old story. Your movie is not as good as is only as good as your villain is. So if your villain is just like I don't understand their motivations, then what kind of movie are you having? Like
Hmm.
the fact that I didn't buy Cheetah, I didn't buy anything else, and Maxwell Lord isn't really the villain. He's just I'm just granting wishes. I'm not really.
Yeah, he's kind of like, I don't want to say anti-hero because he's not on the hero, but like he's an anti-villain, I guess is the way you would put it. So he's
Yeah,
not a villain, but he's
he's a
somewhere cool.
he's like a sub villain. He's like the
Yeah.
secondary villain. Like it should have been again. It goes back to what I was saying before. He should have set it up where like he figured out what the stone was and got it, and then granted her. He could have see the lust and the want in her, and then be like, "Well, what do you want? Oh, power. I'll grant you power. To keep it, kill Wonder Woman." Like and then him sicking her on her, and then that makes more sense why she'd want to kill her or get rid of Wonder Woman
Mhm.
because Maxwell is like, hey, I want to do my own thing. You take care of Wonder Woman, and them barely having any action scenes is like, come on. Like the movie was lacking action. It was just more like a romantic comedy for a lot
Yeah.
of it. With Steve and them doing like kind of like moonlighting and like it's jet setting around and trying to figure things out. I was like, what movie are we watching here? I don't
Right.
like the movie didn't know what it wanted to be, which
Right,
is
right, right.
fine, but I'm if I was in the theater, I'm like I came here to watch a Wonder Woman superhero movie, and not all superhero movies obviously have to have a lot of action, but the action we did get was just like her fighting some tanks and cars
I
and
did
and
like that. I liked the scene the way it looked. It didn't really make sense with the movie, but the way it looked cool at least. The one that
uh,
I didn't like as much was her fighting Cheetah at the end because again, it was just like, oh, we're just doing another CGI'd third act kind of craziness that the first movie had, which was to the first movie's detriment at the end, because I think the first two parts of the first two acts of that movie are phenomenal. So it was like kind of like, oh, we're doing that again, but I feel much less about these first two acts of this movie than I did Wonder Woman.
yeah, absolutely, and the fact that like they were teasing that suit throughout the entire movie, especially at the beginning, and then she putting it on did absolutely nothing.
Right.
It's like she might as well not. What was the point of having it? It didn't do anything. It had no recourse on the story whatsoever. So again, that's just lazy writing. It's like you put that suit in there because it maybe would give her an advantage over fighting Cheetah. So maybe she fought Cheetah, and because she's exposed more in her regular suit, maybe Cheetah had some poison or whatever and marked her skin or
Yeah,
whatever.
called her or something.
Yeah, do something like that. Like, oh, I gotta combat that. How do I combat that? Oh, this suit. So when she tries to scratch me again, I'm protected. Like that makes that's actually a reason to have the suit. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Now it just feels like who cares. So the fact that I like that they got rid of Trevor because the fact that if he and there's rumors that they're gonna bring him back again. I'm like, oh no, I wouldn't buy that. I
They
hope that's
can't
not
do
true.
it. They can't do it a second time.
It's either you kept him or now you got rid of him. Bringing him back a
Right.
third time or a second time would just be ridiculous. And the fact what I don't know what they can do with Maxwell Lord and Cheetah, I don't know. But I was just like, oh, this is really. And the fact, and one more thing. Sorry if I'm
You
going
could
on a
go, yeah.
tangent here.
Get your feelings out, Sean.
Um, is that that we know like obviously we're in the golden age of superhero movies. We've been in it for quite some time, but there's people that are like, oh, I'm a DC fan and I'm a Marvel fan. And if you like DC, you have to hate Marvel. And if you like Marvel, you have to hate DC. Not really. You don't. I am a person who I just loves the superhero movie genre. I just like superheroes in general. I have since I was a kid. I used to collect the trading cards. I used to watch, anything superhero related. You had me. Action figures, you name it. But the fact of the matter is that when one superhero movie comes out, if it's not good, you don't feel good about watching movies at that point. You just don't. If you come out of a movie like, oh, that movie, especially if you thought it was going to be good, you
Hmm.
don't feel good coming out of it. You just don't. And then if
And
someone
I
tells
think
you, you
we
want to
all
see
had
another,
really high expectations for this movie.
absolutely. And then so then if I told you a couple, like obviously under normal circumstances, like, hey, this other superhero movie's coming out, you want to go see that? Like, well, maybe. I mean, this other one I just came out wasn't very good. I don't know.
And I think
Seed
that's
of
for the
doubt.
casual fan too. Because I know for us, like who love these things, we're gonna go see all of them regardless. But like the casual fan is going to probably have that seed of doubt, be like, I don't know.
But that's who they want.
Yeah.
They have my money anyway. But the casual movie fan is who they're always trying to capture. Unfortunately, they know people like us. They have us already. So
Hmm.
they already know like, oh, we, as long as the movie's has hits these points, they're gonna be happy. We have to cater to the average person who may or may not come to see the movie. So if the last movie they saw was bad, and then you say, well, there's another movie that's kind of like it that's also coming out. You want to go see that? They don't want that. So if a DC movie comes out and it does great, you're like, oh, why do you think they always put the next superhero movie in front of in the trailers, but in front of that one? Because
Hmm.
like, hey, just so you're sitting at this one, this next one's coming out. Oh, ooh. So that when you leave that movie and you're like, oh man, that movie was so good. Oh yeah, they showed me the trailer for that last one. I'm looking forward to that now too. It's not an accident. So if you're a superhero fan, you really have to be rooting for all the superhero movies to be good, especially if you want them to be financially good. And if they're financially good, we keep getting more and bigger ones. You think Disney would have been, oh yeah, let's spend $4 billion buying Marvel if we didn't think all these Marvel movies were going to be any good?
If Iron Man bombed, like
Exactly.
we wouldn't have what we have now.
Yeah, Dark Knight was good. Then Iron Man came out. That did good too. So all the rising tides raises all ships. So
Hmm.
if you're a true superhero fan, you want all the movies to do well, because Marvel is competing as DC, and they're competing against each other. But if they were, they know the fans don't know, but they know if a DC movie does good, that's good for Marvel, and if a Marvel movie does good, it's good for DC. Now, whether they can capitalize on that
Yeah.
success by making a good movie is a completely different story. But they're more likely to go see. I mean, there's studies on this, so I
Hmm.
just wish the fans would just take
And
off
guys,
their.
you could be fans of both. If you look at my comic books over here, you got DC, you got Marvel, you got Image. You can read all of them and be fans of all of them.
Yeah, my favorite character is Batman. I'm a huge Batman stan. Huge. Love Batman, but I'm a huge fan of the MCU. I can love both.
All right.
Like if you
Well,
put a gun to my head and say like I only could watch Batman or like the next MCU movie, I'm like, oh man, I don't know what I would do. I
let's
guess it would
not put
depend on
Sean in
which.
that
I
situation.
guess it would depend on which MCU movie it is. It would depend. Like if it was like if I only could watch Batman or like Infinity War, I would be like, oh, that would be like a tough decision. But glad we don't live in that world, so I can watch whatever I want in both and enjoy it. So you guys should do the same.
Well, speaking of earlier of this planting seeds in a movie, it literally made me think about the movie that I'm introducing right now, which is Attack of the Clones, Star Wars Episode 2.
Oh
Now,
no.
I know. So, even though people argue between this movie and then the Clone Wars as being the worst Star Wars movies out there, Attack of the Clones has a very special place in my heart. It is the first
I would
Star
say
Wars
Phantom
movie.
Menace is in there too.
Yeah. Uh, it's the first Star Wars movie that I ever saw in theaters and the first one like I ever watched, so it holds a place right here in this heart of mine. And I know that it's bad. I love it anyways. I could literally like put on This one or Revenge of the Sith and like be a happy camper. My least favorite one actually is the Phantom Menace of the three.
I mean, I will. The goodness is in the reverse order: Revenge of the Sith, then Attack of the Clones, then Phantom Menace. Like, I don't. I'm not a fan of Phantom of the prequels overall. I will say, to give it credit, it had a lot of interesting elements to it.
Hmm.
Like if somebody had the guts to just tell George no,
Yeah,
those prequels would have been a lot better because there's
yeah,
no goddamn way we would have got Jar Jar if someone was like, "Yeah," or at least the version we got.
and
If someone just told George like, yeah, I don't know if this
that's
is
what
gonna
we saw
work.
with the original trilogy is that George had someone there to tell him no or someone there to hold him back. And then the prequels was just like, will you let George run wild? And then that's what we got. So,
Yeah,
but
I mean,
I
he
can,
got a lot of advice from like directors directing about the script for the first one, and he didn't direct the next two of the original trilogy. So he had input, but of course he wasn't the sole person driving the ship forward. In the prequels, it was George and
yeah,
only George,
and
and he's
only
not the
George.
best director. So the fact that he didn't have the best script to work with, and he's not the best director, and it was pretty much all CGI. Like that combination, just it didn't work. Like, but there were just so many elements, especially in Attack of the Clones. Like Phantom Menace is just like, oh boy, there
And if
were
we didn't get
to be
Attack of
fair,
the Clones, we wouldn't have gotten the Clone Wars like
yeah,
animated series, which that is the best Anakin story. And then
which I
also
didn't
like
see.
even though I love the original and I love Leia a lot, like Padme was like the first like female that I was like, this is my girl, this is the one. And then it became Leia and then it became Ahsoka. And so obviously like as a little girl I was always gonna look towards the female characters. I decided to watch this movie because, like I said last week, I'm rewatching the Clone Wars animated series in chronological order, and I was just like, kind of want to watch Attack of the Clones. I want to watch the beginning of this, and you do see seeds of you have Anakin there having doubts, having critique of the Jedi Council, of Obi-Wan, of things like that. That makes it see like, oh, you can see why he would turn into Darth Vader later. It's not a surprising thing, which is something you spoke on Wonder Woman. So that was like, that came into my head. There's like, you see those little points, especially in Revenge of the Sith as well.
Yeah.
Like, he kills Count Dooku in that. So is that on your end or mine? Okay. But
Okay, it's over.
I think too, rewatching it the other day, I was like, I think I might actually love this movie. And it's one of those where, you know, when like you watch a movie and you're like, you know it's bad, but you love it anyways.
Yeah,
This is it for me. I was like, I'm happy when I watch it. I enjoy the story. Anytime like Anakin does something cringy, I'm just like I'm laughing. I know how much like since I've seen the Clone Wars, it makes this movie like 10 times better for me as well. One sec.
one second. Okay, I'm back.
Sorry about that.
No, it's fine. It happened for me, so we're even.
Yeah,
We're all good.
but yeah, I just I love this movie, and and you come at me in my mentions. I know it's
I,
bad, but I love it anyways.
I'm not gonna come at you because, like, depending upon how old you are when you watch it, there's nostalgia that will then start to creep in as you get older and revisit it. So, for me, Attack of the Clones is like it might be the most disappointing movie because it has so much promise in there of like what it could have been. Like because the idea that if you go back to the New Hope and you hear Obi-Wan talking about Darth Vader, aka Anakin, about like how they used to be good friends and all this, like the prequels never capture that. And I know the
I
Clone
will
Wars
agree to
series
that.
does, but in the movies, which the majority of people will only see the movies didn't come. make them come across that way. But the movie did do a good job of planting the seeds of Anakin, going dark, which eventually does in the third one. So that it did work, but and the problem I had was I was always worried that you have Darth Vader. He's arguably the greatest villain of all time. You can argue that. And then when you give him, and when you watch the original trilogy, we don't learn that much about him, which makes him even better. Like we don't know how he got in that suit. We don't know like why he turned. We don't know anything, which makes him mysterious, and we love him even more. Now, the fact that we love him so much, and then we go into the prequels and we're gonna explain his backstory, it takes a little bit of the shine off of him because now he's we meet him in the Phantom Menace. He's this whiny little 10-year-old. Like that's Darth Vader? Really? What it should have been was Attack of the Clones should have been the first movie. We should just met him as a teenager. You plant the seeds that way. You do another movie. You explore that relationship more in then the second movie, and then we get Revenge of the Sith. Him meeting, I don't give. You can flash back to him as a kid if you want to. That's fine. But I don't need to see him as a whiny little kid. I don't care. And then him, rolling around in the sand with Padme. It's like, okay, whatever. I don't care. So
I
that's just
think
my problem
I
with it.
can't wait till you watch the Clone Wars because it does recontextualize stuff where like because you have that knowledge in your head, like I have the knowledge in my head, so I come to the Attack of the Clones with that knowledge. And then as producer Ben over there is like, don't forget about the backstory of the clones; they might be his favorite part of Attack of the Clones. You do get to learn about Camino, and you get to learn about the clones and Boba Fett and his
Django
father
Fett, yeah.
Jango Fett and things of that nature. And I think those are cool parts of that movie. And I think too, Phantom Menace, what that shows is it shows the first like the budding relationship between Padme and Anakin. It's my least favorite of the three. But I think you needed something like that to show then why they would get together in Attack of the Clones. Because I think it would have been really weird if the Attack of the Clones was the first movie and you have these two random characters falling in love. Maybe it's the way that like if it was a better story, you can buy the
Flashback.
falling in love or flashback or something, but I think I don't know. That's a very interesting thought of starting with Attack of
Well,
the Clones.
I'll put you this way. I'll put you this way. Besides Padme and Anakin meeting, besides that, with what you know from just those three movies, what else did we really learn in Phantom Menace that we needed to learn going forward? Keyword needed.
I wouldn't say needed, but the coolest part about that is Darth Maul.
Yeah, of course, cool, but in
Yeah.
in the aspects of those three movies, not that important. Obviously, he gets more important later
And
on.
you wouldn't get the cool moments, cool Darth Maul moments in Clone Wars and in Rebels and that reveal at the end of Solo: A Star Wars Story if you didn't have him in Phantom
Fair, but
Menace.
again, with the prequel movies, that means nothing because he's never mentioned or talked about ever again. So what did that really? Well, I think Dooku mentioned him in the second one, I think, but it's not that movie's not important in the grand scheme of the whole trilogy. The majority of the first movie is not important. So you could easily just skip it. I'd rather see the development of him and Padme and him and Obi-Wan more because then the more you see that, and obviously they did that in Clone Wars, the more you see it, the more it's heartbreaking when you see them come apart when they're best friends and they have to fight. Like that fight in Revenge of the Sith is amazing,
Yeah.
amazing. That fight alone saves that movie. Like that movie also has problems, but seeing that epic fight, like I can forgive a lot of that because of that fight. But then it would have felt more impactful if you could see a whole movie developing their relationship and his relationship with Padme, and him trying to keep that relationship a secret from his best friend and from the Jedi Order. Him trying to hide that, and like how it must be eating him up inside. Like, I have to be like two different people. I'm in love with Padme, but I'm also a Jedi. Like, him having that struggle, and then the Emperor kind of feeding into it, like, you don't have to be this way. Like, him planting the seeds of him going dark. Like, again, the prequels have so much potential, and for me, that's why they're a little bit disappointing. That you could have enhanced Darth Vader, and that's hard to say because he's arguably, before those movies come out, the greatest villain of all time, and you had the opportunity to go back and enhance him even more so, and it was a squandered opportunity to me, which is unfortunate because now I don't look at Darth Vader the same after this movie. Rogue One made me feel a little bit better about him because we
Can't
saw
wait till
that
you watch
awesome.
Rebels. I can't wait till you watch
Yeah,
Rebels.
but again, I shouldn't
Yeah,
have to.
I know
I
you
shouldn't
shouldn't
have
have
to
to,
because the
but it
majority of
helps.
people will never watch Rebels. We have to understand that. We'll never watch Rebels because it's animated. Like, some people just never give it a chance. But George had the opportunity of a lifetime to cement Darth Vader as the undisputed greatest villain of all time with those prequels, and he let Darth Vader the character down, in my opinion.
I mean, I think still you can argue him being one of the best, whether the prequels were there or not.
Oh, there's
Yeah.
no doubt about that. There's no doubt about
And
that.
I think too another thing that I like about the Clone Wars, and this is going to be like kind of a hot take. Goes bring in Ben hot takes here on this channel, but I know people don't like the political intrigue. I like the political intrigue. It could have been handled better, but I think too because I like politics and I like shows with political intrigue and I love movies with political intrigue. Some of the political stuff of the prequels like was enjoyable for me. And I know a lot of people don't like that stuff about the prequels.
Yeah, but I think that's just them saying I didn't like the movie, and this is one of the reasons why I didn't like it. Now, if the rest of the movie was better, then they would feel differently about those scenes because I understand why those scenes are there. I get it. Just sprinkle around. Sorry, just give me some other good stuff around it, and I can tolerate. Even if I don't like those scenes, I can tolerate those scenes better because I understand why they're there. They help drive a certain part of the story. I get it, especially with the Emperor and Padme and all that stuff. Totally get it. So I know why they're there, and I know that eventually we got to get to a republic to an empire. So obviously there has to be some political intrigue in there to some degree. But if you gave me Attack of the Clones as it was, and then we had a second movie with just focusing majority of the time on their backstory. So whatever happens in Clone
Or
Wars,
like if you saw more of Boba Fett, like maybe what that would be part of the second movie then before Revenge of the Sith or what and then another cool thing too, talking like political intrigue is that, or the thing with Dooku in the Attack of the Clones too, where he was just like, where he's telling them like, would you think that the people in the Senate and the Palpatine and things of that nature, like they're the ones orchestrating out all of this, and Anakin and Obi-Wan don't believe him because they're like, he's the bad guy, he can't be telling the truth.
yeah, and the fact that they just like bring him back in the second movie, I mean the third movie, just to kill, like, I get that. Like, obviously that's another part of, but imagine like if we had a movie, a new second movie where you see Anakin kind of like, should I kill should I do these things? Shouldn't I? And then he does what he does to Dooku. That moment would mean more. In the movie, it's just like, oh wow, that's weird. Where did that come from?
I
There's
get
no
that.
build up to it.
And all the criticisms of the prequel trilogy, I pretty much agree with most of them. And it's one of those moments where like I don't care anyways. I love them because again, I saw Attack of the Clones. It came out what 2001
2001
was it?
or two.
Yeah, I think it's 2001. So
2002,
that
your producer says.
oh 2002. So then that would mean that I was 8 years old.
Yeah, and that makes total sense then. There's no
Yeah.
that you saying that means that's all we need to say about that because then
Yeah.
there's a reason why you like the movie the way you do. It's you know if you see it as a kid, it
Yeah.
could be total garbage, but you're just gonna be like, oh my god, that's part of my youth, and then nostalgia kicks in. So, no
Yeah.
fault for you liking it. No
I
fault.
think there's a lot of movies of that nature where like if people watch them as adults and they didn't watch them as little kids, they don't like heavyweights. I think people who watch that as an adult and not as a kid don't enjoy that movie as much. Or oh man,
That's a great example because
or
I didn't see it as a kid. I saw it as an adult and just like, yeah, it's okay. But then I watched The Sandlot and I'm like, oh, The Sandlot. It's
oh
basically the same movie.
yeah,
But to me, I love Sandlot. It's close to my heart. Heavyweight's just like,
or I'm the Goonies. There we go. I was about like Truffle Shuffle. Yeah, Goonies. I think a lot of people who say that they watched it as an adult don't like it as much as those who've watched it as a kid. So I
yep,
think
it's a good
that's
example too.
it's gonna happen in movies, and that's why
Mighty
we're
Ducks is a good example. You're right, Ben.
I love Mighty Ducks.
Yeah, all those Disney sports movies,
Yeah,
they're all the exact same thing. It's just they're on hockey. They got a hockey one, they got a baseball one, they got a basketball one, they had a
Johnny
football one.
Tsunami. You remember that?
I don't. I see. I never saw that. But like those Air Bud movies, I never saw those. So now watching it, just like this is just ridiculous. Why are they letting this dog play sports? It's stupid. But I'm sure
Yeah.
there's people who watch them as a kid, like I love Air Bud. I'm like, not really. But yeah, so I can understand, and that's why it's hard to argue with people who grew up with those Star Wars movies and tell you can't really argue like those that's their introductory to Star Wars. The same way now there's kids now that the sequel trilogy, that's their trilogy now.
They're gonna love Rise of Skywalker,
Yeah, no
and I'm
matter
gonna have to
what.
accept that,
Yeah,
even though I don't like that movie.
absolutely. That raise their character now. Just like how
Yeah.
maybe like Anakin and Padme were yours and Luke
Mm.
and Han and Chewie and Leia were mine. You know, it's just how it is. So you
Yeah.
know, and we just have to understand that. And I wish the Star Wars community would just like, hey, it's cool if they like that. We like this, and they like that. It is what it is, man.
If we let
It still
everyone
has
be the
Star
Star
Wars at the
Wars
title.
fan that they are, no matter what movies you like or don't like, if you could have a discourse like Sean and I right now, where Sean didn't like Attack of the Clones, I do. We still are having this wonderful discourse and still are friends going forward. If that could
Well, let me reiterate. I am disappointed
there we go,
with
disappointed.
Attack of the Clones. I don't like Phantom Menace because I think Phantom Menace is just it's just a waste of a it's just like as a trilogy. It's like what do we really learn from
I
that one?
find it very interesting because a lot of people who grew up on the original trilogy say that Attack of the Clones is the worst of the three, and I find it very interesting that you say Phantom Menace because I agree with you on that. I think Phantom Menace is the worst of the three.
Well. Maybe they feel that way because it's Attack of the Clones is frustrating because there's so much good in there. It's just not a good movie, but it has the potential to be. I think that's why people say, "Oh, I hate that movie." You're not really saying you hate it. You're just so mad at it because you like, I want to love this movie so much, but I can't. I think that's what it is. I think people are not understanding their feelings about it. They're just they. I don't hate Attack of the Clones. I'm just like, please be better. Oh, you're not better.
And for all Star Wars fans out there, Empire Strikes Back is my favorite Star Wars movie. So let me get back in the good graces.
Mine is Empire, and second is Rogue One. I'm sorry, it's Rogue One. It's what it is now.
so I'm gonna get back in bag. I think it's for me it is Empire, then Star Wars, Then like Rogue One and The Last Jedi are kind of like at a tie for third for me, and then it's Return of the Jedi. Which I know that puts me back in bad graces because The Last Jedi is that high up for me.
Last Jedi, I know it gets a lot of hate, but at least Ryan Johnson got played a bad hand. He just
Mhm.
JJ was like up, setting
JJ
all this
gave was
stuff
like,
up, and
here's my mystery box, you
yeah,
handle it.
if you take it, and without direction, so he has to kind of just like, what do I do now? I don't know.
Yeah, and I think too if people were saying like that's not my Luke, I was like, what if Luke took that lightsaber and was just like, yeah, I'm gonna go fight, then what is that? Why did he go to that place in the first place?
Exactly.
Like
He would
if
have
he's
learned
there and
nothing.
if he would have taken that lightsaber, I think it would have made Luke a coward for not being there in the first movie. And Luke Skywalker is not a fucking coward, people. I think it like there's moments that like I think if people got what they wanted in that moment of him taking that lightsaber or him going to the fight and being like, "Yep, let's do it right now," it wouldn't have worked for me personally.
The man lost. He lost. He tried to rebuild the Jedi Order and he lost. Obviously, you wouldn't take that lightly. His nephew betrayed him. He's not going to take that lightly. For him to then say, you know what, f this, I'm just going to sit on the island and die. I get it. I
Yeah.
get why he was like, I don't want lightsaber. Get that crap out of here. I tried that already. Look where it got me. It got me here. This is where I'm at because I tried that. It makes perfect sense that we got grumpy Luke, and it would make perfect sense that he stayed grumpy.
Yeah.
So at me if you think differently, because
And
for
he
him
did
to
the
just be
most
like,
powerful Jedi thing at the end. That end was force projecting across the galaxy takes some fucking power, and Luke is the most powerful Jedi.
yeah, and he ain't won a spring chicken when he was doing that either. So to me it would make sense. Like, if he did that, he wouldn't be around. It was a great fake out too. Everybody was just like, I thought he was really there. So like, I feel sorry for Ryan Johnson. I'm sure, without knowing the details, I'm sure if they actually sat down and was like, all right, so we got Force Awakens, and then we're gonna call the second one Last Jedi, and we're gonna call
I think
the third one
Rise of
Rise of Skywalker.
Skywalker,
It
if
actually
they
had a
had a plan,
plan.
yeah,
Yes,
if they had a plan, Rise of Skywalker could have ended things and make The Last Jedi one of the best movies ever. I think Rise of
absolutely.
Skywalkers did a disservice, and I've seen this before too, where um, I don't think you've seen Avatar: The Last Airbender or Legend of
No,
Korra, have you?
no.
So in Legend of Korra, they were only planned on doing one season, but it was so popular that they decided to do another season, and they ended up doing four. And there was problems with Nickelodeon, and then like problems of like Nickelodeon, like, okay, we're gonna put the episode on this day. Okay, now we're gonna change it to this day. Oh, now it's only gonna be online. Nickelodeon gave it a really bad hand and stuff,
Yeah,
and there was stories and increments going on. Same with WandaVision, which we're gonna talk about later. That people are like, I don't like this, and I was like, wait until the end of this story before you decide if you like it or not. And because it was coming out week to week, people were like, Mike and Brian, they're doing such an awful thing. How could they do this to the fans? The story sucks. And then at the end of the season, they're like, oh my God, that was amazing. And I was just like, see, if you just wait till the fucking end.
yeah. I think the problem is that streaming and binging has become so much of a thing for people to be like, I mean, I gotta wait till the week, till the next episode. It's like, yeah, no shit. Like, that's how we all used to have to do it back in the day. And if you didn't watch it then, you have to wait till the summertime to catch a rerun. Oh my god. So like,
Or
well,
put it in your VH
as it gotta be,
as
yeah,
tape.
yeah, and program it. There used to be the numbers in the TV guide that you would put those numbers in and would know what show you wanted. Yeah, I'm
Hey,
aging myself a
I
little
know
bit. That's
what
what it is.
VHS tapes and floppy disk are. I've worked with those.
Yeah, that's fair, but still. Um, I
There's
don't know.
some kids that don't anymore.
Well, that's true. That's true. That's true. But I'm sorry, I'm going off of tangents here. Damn it, sorry, making this so comfortable to talk. We're
Hey,
already an hour in, and we even get halfway through.
all right, yeah, let's get to our next, which for this anything extra, Sean brought up such a interesting thing that I might bring it going forward with anything extra is just bringing up a topic. And Sean, why don't you introduce the topic since you were the one who came up with it?
Well, so I know Soul is a big fan of anime, and I am to a certain degree. And one of the animes that I'm really into is Dragon Ball Z slash Dragon Ball Super, which Soul has not seen. So with that
Not Super, I've
community,
seen Dragon Ball Z.
yeah, you've seen Dragon Ball Z, you haven't seen Dragon Ball Super, which I know will come back at some point, which I'm looking forward to. And the big problem, well, not problem, but debate in that community is dubbed versus sub. And you have there you go. I like that. Very nice. You have people on both sides of this argument or this debate. And I'm like, is there really a debate? And I'm not sure which way I fall on because when Super first came out, I watched it subbed. You had to. And then you waited a while, and then eventually came out dubbed, and I watched it too. Now, watching dubbed, oh sorry, yeah, dubbed is was interesting because I already knew what was happening, but I still enjoyed it watching it dubbed because of the changes that they made. Changes I liked, dialogue wise, changes I hated. But I just found it interesting and fascinating because I already knew what to expect. Seeing it subbed, I was like anticipating waiting to watch it dubbed so I could, and because I want to watch it again, of course. So for me, I think if I had to put my feet in either camp, which I have a foot in each side, but if I had to go on one, I prefer it subbed. But that's just me. I don't mind reading the subtitles. I'm not one of those like I can't read and understand. Like I can do that. It's not that hard. But I'll speak for myself. And I also don't like that American these companies take the source material and make unnecessary changes. They'll change a name, they'll change a term, they'll change. If you want to go way back to when Dragon Ball Z first came out, they censored the crap out of it. Changed
I
certain
will say the one good
storylines.
thing that the dub DBZ did over 9,000 is so much better than over 8,000, which is what is in the original Japanese and what is in the manga. And then in Dragon Ball Kai, they put it back to it's over 8,000, and that doesn't sound the same as
It
it's
does
over
well,
9,000.
yeah. I mean, there's certain things that like the original Ocean dub is just like with the Falconer music. Like I love the Falconer music, but it's just like a lot of the changes they made back then is if you watch the a real version now, it's just like, ooh, why did they do that? So for me, I prefer show it to me how it originally was made, which is subbed, because the American companies will always try to Americanize it regardless, even though they know now they don't have to. Back then, I could totally understand it, totally get it. Like obviously, you're putting it on Cartoon Network for kids. You gotta not dumb it down. You gotta take a lot of the profanity. Well, not profanity, but like a lot of the blood and the misogyny. You gotta take all that stuff out. I get, even though I kept some of it in, you gotta tone it down a little bit. I totally get it. But now you know for a fact that more adults are watching this kind of anime and you still make certain changes to it. You're not catering to kids with these animes, you're catering to adults now. And the fact that you still feel that you need to like, oh, we're gonna put our American touch on this. Why? We all know it's not American. We know it's not.
Yeah,
And like
it's
back in
not
the
like back
days,
in the day when you're watching Yu-Gi-Oh and DBZ and you think it's an American cartoon.
exactly, or
Yeah,
even further back from that, when you used to watch like when things like Voltron and Power Rangers and all these things were out, those weren't American shows. They weren't. They just sprinkled their American dust on it to make like, ooh, look, we're gonna Americanize it. They're gonna say fancy American stuff. Like that's not what they really were saying. But like, I get then because you didn't know who you were. You thought you were only catering to kids, and for the most part, they were. Now those kids
Or
are
adults who
adults
are
now.
watching anime.
That's who's really watching it now. And then they're getting their kids like, "Hey kid, you're watching DBZ now." Like my nephew, who's 7, he loved Dragon Ball Super. He loved it. He loves it. By the way, he's like a
Is he
Goku
watching it
stain.
subbed?
He watched it both ways. He doesn't care. He watched it dub. He watched it sub. He didn't care. He loved Dragon Ball. So like he could understand it both ways. I'm not sure which one he prefers. I would have to ask him next time I talk to him. But for me, sorry, I'm going on a
No,
tangent
go.
here.
Yeah.
But
That's
I
what Soul
just
Talk is. Soul Talks for the tangents.
I wouldn't mind. I think sub could change, dub could change me if I knew that they really didn't change anything that they didn't need to. When you change a character's name for no good reason,
Yeah.
it's like why do
Right,
that?
like this is not anime related, but like Avatar: The Last Airbender when M Night Shyamalan, and it was his name is Aang, and they named him Ong in the movie, and I was just like, why are you calling him Ong? He's like, but for this, I actually fall on both sides, and it's a depending. So if it's an anime that I either originally watched in English, or an anime that like I enjoy but want it in the background while I'm doing other things. Obviously, I don't understand Japanese, so if I'm gonna watch an anime in Japanese, I need to read the subtitles. If I'm doing other stuff, obviously I'm gonna listen to it in English because like therefore it's more of a like a background thing
Yeah,
for
yeah,
me. And then also there's shows like Space Dandy, I think is the only example. It is literally the only example out there where the dub is better than the sub. And the reason why I say that is because Space Dandy is an anime that is made like an American show. It was very heavily influenced by American cartoons, and so it's when you listen to it in Japanese or when like some of the stuff like or like music wise does not fit the theme of the show that they're doing. So like the Americanized music and the Americanized it's basically cuz it's like an American cartoon. So
yeah.
that one I suggest watching that dubbed. Now on the other side, like if something's set in Japan, I like to watch it subbed because I'm like, it's in Japan. They're obviously speaking Japanese there. Just like I think I was watching like a Pirates of the Caribbean movie and like they went to Spain and then they're still speaking English. And I was like, if you're in Spain, speak Spanish. Like if you're in a country that speaks another language, we all can read subtitles. Like I want it to be more
Some people
authentic.
don't like to.
Yeah, I think it would make movies so much better or TV shows so much better if they're more authentic that way and actually had the language that is actually in that country that they're around. But that's neither here nor there. So like if it's set in Japan, like Free Aotobi Swim Club, I watched that subbed. And then I was like, I'm interested to check out the dub. And then I like listened to the dub and I was like, oh my God, the voices sound so weird. This sounds so bad. I'm not watching this in dub at all. And then there's other things too where I think there's some great dubs out there that we have to give these voice actors credit. And I will shout out Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. I think watching that either subbed or dubbed, the dub is great for that. The dub is also great for Soul Eater out there. The dub is great for Blue Exorcist. So there's different ones where I will always say watch it in its original language first because that's typically where I stand on things.
Yeah.
But there are some really good dubs out there, and we need to like these people. That's their job, and and they do such a good job that I'll go out and listen to like the English parts.
Yeah, I mean, I think we also have to remember that when these shows are made in specific countries, including our own, you're catering to that audience, and it just happens to go overseas to another country. So when we're watching anime, they're making it not with an American audience in mind. They're thinking about a Japanese audience first and foremost. So they're making jokes and doing things that their audience can relate to. So, but as time has gone on, we and as the world has gotten smaller, we understand that, and we're okay with that. Like this isn't made for me, but I could enjoy it anyway. Like just the same way we take ours when we make something, we're making it for our country first, and then it goes overseas, and then they dub it. But we're catering to our audience first. So that's when we're watching anime. There's jokes in there that like, well, we if that was an American show, they wouldn't make that joke, but they're not making it for us.
Right.
So I want to watch it the way it was intentionally made, not catered to try to fit some American narrative that you're trying to shove down my throat. I don't need to be catered to. I know what I'm watching. This is something that was made in Japan for a Japanese audience, and I'm watching it. I'm okay with that. The same way some Americans be like, why are they changing our movie? Well, because then they have to cater it to their audience. Like, you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
I
and with movies too, there's different countries. Like, for example, in Mexico, they will they're a country that will read subtitles. So they'll watch a movie that from America in English with Spanish subtitles. Germany is a country that does not want to read subtitles. So they dub over American movies in German. So and different countries fall on different sides of that argument. So like if even though I understand Spanish, but let's say I didn't understand Spanish and I'm in Mexico, I could go see a Marvel movie or any movie and be able to watch it because it's in English. I can't do that in Germany.
no, and I know some Americans don't want to do it here. Like they don't want to. Like that's why foreign movies will. I shouldn't say would never, but they have a hard hill to climb in this country because some people just don't want to sit in the theater. Can't wait till we do that again, and read subtitles. They just don't want to do it. They just
Right.
don't want to do it. So I can understand to a degree why you would not like it subtitled.
Yeah.
I get that, but what I don't like again is then you changing things like so in Dragon Ball Super. This is not really a spoiler because all this is just a name change. So in the show, there's a character in the Japanese version. His name is Topo. That's his name. American version, they changed to Top. Why?
Why do they
What's
do
wrong with
that?
Topo?
I don't understand that.
I don't. Now, if it was if now back in the day when they had Mr. Satan, I get it. I got it. Like
Yeah. But
you're catering
Topo,
to kids. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. It's
yeah.
like stuff like that. It's just like, and I'll probably make it a mountain on a molehill. But just at the end of the day, like,
Yeah.
why? Why?
I
It's
will
such a
going
stupid little change. But why change it?
I will say going to subtitles, and this is something too that I love when it subtitles typically get the essence of what is being written. It doesn't always put the actual translation in. So, like for example, I was watching Dolor y Gloria, Pain and Glory, in the theaters back when we could go into theaters back in 2019, and
Oh, the good old days.
the good old days, right? And so that movie's in Spanish. It's a Spanish movie from Spain. It has Antonio Banderas, who was nominated for lead Oscar in that movie, and they were the subtitles were saying like bro or dude or friend kind of, but what they were actually saying, they were calling each other maricon, which is like saying gay. So
Yeah.
like because like that's something too, like the vernacular of saying like, oh, you're gay or things like that, that's still something that
Well,
kind
yeah.
of
Well,
moved away from in English, but is still more like spoken in Spanish
certain things
too.
don't translate well. Like
Yeah.
I
So
totally get that. I
if it
totally
was
get that.
just like so like the translation, like it would have been like how you doing gay? Like which would be like weird. So like the subtitle was like how you doing friend?
Yeah, well
Yeah.
that makes more sense.
So
Otherwise,
I'm
you'd be
over
like that'll
here
get lost in translation. Like, wait, what? How's it going
so
gay?
I
Like
was
that doesn't make
over
any sense.
here like as a Spanish speaker watching the movie, I was laughing because I was like, "That's not what he said," but that's funny. Like you got the essence of what they were saying in the
Yeah.
translation. And I know, like my friends who are fluent in ASL, they say that sometimes a lot of movies that like what people are signing is not exactly what the subtitle says.
Oh, I'm sure, but at the end
Yeah,
of the day, like you get the point is what they're trying.
right.
Like you get what we're trying to do here. I like trust me, I get it, and it's an interesting debate because trust me, there's people on both sides of it, and I get. I just don't like when people communities are bashing each other. Like, oh, you like subbed, you're terrible. You like it dubbed, you're terrible. It's like, no, it's just a
Like the
preference.
Star Wars thing, let people watch their anime in whatever way they want to watch it.
Yeah, or watch them both. You can be fans of both. I watch Super both ways. I have no problem watching it dubbed. I have no problem watching it subbed. No problem. It's just to me, it's just like this little changes. Just as like, did you really have to do that?
Yeah.
Oh,
And I
whatever.
think too, bashing, because I know there's some people that like they can't read subtitles very fast because they're dyslexic or some other like things like that, so they only watch anime dubbed. And I think too, we need to not get on them if they're saying, "Hey, I watch dub." Like, first, you shouldn't get on them regardless whether they had that reason or not, because people should be able to watch things the way they want to watch it. But two, you never know what someone's dealing with or what someone has or what that. Just be nice to people.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people just don't like it takes them out of it if they have to read something. Like if they're
Yeah,
just
because
like
they might not
watching
be
something.
watching. Yeah,
Well, no, not if they're just watching it. They're immersing themselves in the world, and then them having to read something kind of takes like snaps them out of
yeah.
it. And
Or
then
they're
when they're
focusing
watching,
on the words and they're not
yeah, and
watching
they
the
miss like
screen.
yeah, like some people
Yeah.
just have a hard time focusing specifically, or like oh, I read something. Oh, what just happened? Oh no, I was reading it, and like so some people actually have an issue reading it.
Mhm.
It's when you say I don't want to do it, that's a different story. Or then you bash people who like who prefer it that way. It's like dude,
Yeah.
come on, man. It's not that big of a deal. But I know, like, then the reason why I want to bring it up because I know it's a huge debate. No matter what anime you talk about, it's always dubbed versus subbed. No matter what anime you talk about, it's always dubbed versus subbed
I
all the
have
time.
some fun homework for you, Sean, and for the guests watching Soul Talk. So I'm gonna
Depending
give
on
a
what it is, I may or may not do it.
okay.
I'm just
I have
kidding.
a little so when anime is licensed to the United States, the biggest licensor in the US is Funimation, but
Yeah.
then you have other smaller ones here in the US. And a lot of times when Japan is selling a popular show, they will add on not as popular shows to it. So they'll be like, oh, if you want to buy Attack on Titan, you also need to buy these shows as well at of course, a more reduced price.
Yeah,
And
package
so,
deal.
yeah, package deal. One of those is this anime called Ghost Stories. Now, in Japan, this anime was a flop. People did not like this anime. It was a bad anime. And it was part of a package deal. So Funimation ended up doing whatever the hell they wanted. They like basically and it is one of the funniest thing. It's like watching, have you seen like those abridged things on YouTube where they take and they make jokes like DBZ
Oh
abridged or
yeah, yeah,
Yu-Gi-Oh
I've seen that.
abridged?
Yeah, yeah.
It's like watching that, but it's actually produced by Funimation, so it's good audio and all this other things of that nature, and it is the funniest thing you will ever see. I will have to send you, if you don't want to watch the anime, look up the YouTube clips, say best of Ghost Stories English dub.
Ghost stories.
Ghost Stories. I'm
Okay.
gonna send some of the stuff to you, Sean. It is hilarious.
If you
It is
send it to me, I'll watch it. If you send it to me, I'll
it's
watch it.
literally one of those moments of we don't give a fuck about this show, so we literally are going to let these voice actors say whatever the fuck they want.
That's fine. I mean, but I'm pretty sure some people like it or liked it.
N-
For
It, it
someone to do.
it's basically like a It's such a weird story. Like, and so like if you watch it in the Japanese sub, you're watching a shitty story. If you're watching it in English, you're having a fun time laughing at the things that they're saying.
That's fair. Totally
Yeah.
fair.
So that is another one too. That and Space Dandy. Those are ones that I recommend watching dubbed if you watch dub. Other ones, I typically like to say watch it in its original language. And then if you want to go and watch it dubbed later, go do that.
Yeah, especially when we live in a time now where those are more easily available.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right.
So
So now that we've made it to our hour and a half mark here, we should probably get into our
hour and a
WandaVision.
half. Dang. So you know I'm gonna want to talk about WandaVision for a long time. We're gonna be here for 3 hours. I'm just kidding. I don't know.
So
What has your longest episode been?
the one with Cheryl,
And how long was that one?
that was almost 2 hours.
Oh, geez, we're gonna break that record now. Sorry, Cheryl. It's gonna happen.
But anyways, so we're going to get into our WandaVision spoilers. If you have not seen the first 4 episodes, leave now, come back after you watch it. Disney Plus, get to it. But for those who have seen all 4 episodes, we're going straight into the spoilers. So, Sean, what are your overall thoughts of the season as a total, and also episode 4?
Well, so before I answer, it's always good to make sure people understand that the pandemic affected the way these shows were supposed to be released to us. So
True.
not technically, this is the beginning of Phase 4. It wasn't the plan though.
Yeah.
We were supposed to get Black Widow and Falcon and Winter Soldier, and then this. So
Mm-hmm.
you kind of can think of like, and I can understand their thought process was, we're getting that movie and we're getting that show, and then this is a nice. And I said this on Pop Talk when we talked about it, a palate cleanser. This is something completely different
Mm-hmm.
than what we got before. So you would look at it, you would appreciate it differently if it came out the way they intended to. But with that being said, I fucking love this show. It is so clever and smart. It knows exactly what it was what it has tried to accomplish so far. It is nailed. So in the first 4 episodes, obviously the first two came out together for obvious reasons because they understood that some people have never watched a sitcom, or in other countries they wouldn't get those jokes because it goes
Because they're
back to
American
those are
sitcom.
American jokes catering to an American audience. So one of our friends Boggs, who lives across the pond, is like, yeah, I don't get it. Well, yeah, it's they're catering to an American audience with American sitcoms in mind. So with that being said, the fact that the show is so meta that in the fourth episode, which to me is the best episode of the four.
Yeah.
Now, it used to be episode 2, now it's
Yep.
episode
I
4.
agree.
Because episode 4 shows us the dusting in a completely different way now. Whereas in Infinity War, we saw the heroes get dusted. In Endgame, we saw the heroes return. In Spider-Man: Homecoming, we kind of saw some of the kids come back in a kind of funny way.
Yeah,
In
with the
this
tuba
episode,
sound.
yeah, in this episode, we got to see like like what it would really be like for you just to like automatically just boom, you come back 5 years later. You don't know. Everybody just it's chaos. It's absolute. That's what it would really be like. So that first couple of minutes was just like I was just like this. Wow.
And it was
And that
very
was just a
much,
cold open.
yeah, and it was very much too where like you had, I don't forget if it was a doctor or a nurse saying we're at full capacity, and how many times have we heard that in
Now it
2020,
yeah.
now in 2021 with COVID, that hospitals are at full capacity. And so like hearing a line like that made this show so reverent to what's going on now,
Yeah.
because of the whole like 5 year jump and everything. I think this is set 2024, 2025 is
I
when,
believe so, yeah.
yeah, is the time period that this is set in. So this is set in a world where there was no COVID in 2020, but there was a
Yeah.
blip.
But
And
it's just funny
yeah,
how like that line, like I love that line too. Like that line means more now than it did when they shot it.
Hmm.
Like, oh, we're at capacity. Like just automatic chaos. Like, and that was just a cold open. And you can see, and one of the things I'm loving about Disney is that they're putting their money into this show. That the dusting coming back, especially on Monica, just like her coming back, like in that first shot, was just like, yeah, I could see why this is the most expensive television show of all time, including Game of Thrones. It's this, and you can see why. So yeah, the fourth episode is just it answered all it. It's so meta because they knew how we would be reacting to the first three, so they made the fourth one to set it up where their characters are us,
Are
like
asking the same questions that we
asking the
are, that
exact same
we're writing things
questions.
on a whiteboard. I watch New Rock Stars, and they, and also the Real Rejects, and they were making a joke. Goes, oh, this is Eric Voss from New Rock Stars writing on their board. This must be the New Rock Stars board. Goes, why hexagons is Vision alive?
Yeah,
Like those are actual titles of their YouTube videos that they've been asking these past few weeks. So they literally were just like, we know you have these questions, so we're going to be you in this episode.
yeah, because now our characters have the same questions you do. So as they're uncovering it, you're like, that's what, also, that was Darcy at the beginning of this of at the end of the episode. Oh, yeah, they're slowly just giving, but they didn't give us a lot. They just gave us enough where people who were like, I don't like the sitcom stuff. I'm gonna. It's like, well, now you're back on board now. So
Mhm.
but they still left the mystery out there. So they gave us like a little bit of the appetizer, and then we're slowly gonna get to the main course, which we haven't gotten there yet. But they teased it enough where I'm so looking forward to, like, it's Monday, or when this comes out Wednesday. Like, let's get to Friday already, or Thursday night at midnight. Let's go. I
Midnight
want
for you,
episode
3 a.m. for
five.
me.
I want episode five, and I want it right now.
And one cool thing that I like too is that we saw that there's more episodes that aired of WandaVision
Yeah,
than we actually saw of the first three,
which makes
which makes
makes a ton of
sense.
sense. Yeah, makes a ton of sense.
And so uh there's, and like this still gave us questions, so it wasn't one of the, it wasn't, I know some people criticize, they're like, oh, now they're giving us all the answers because there's still more show, and I was like, they're not giving us all the answers, there's still so many questions, like who's the missing person that Jimmy Woo is in
Yeah,
New Jersey for? He's an FBI agent that works in California. Why is
yeah.
he in New Jersey?
Because and
Yeah.
Dottie did not have a real identity. She
Hmm.
doesn't, and neither does Catherine Hong's character. So,
Yeah,
like
Agnes.
Agnes, yeah. So she didn't have a dossier. Like, so those are questions. Now, especially at the end when Wanda says, when Vision says, like, we can go anywhere we want, and Wanda says, well, we can't. This is home. Who told her that? So there is a greater power that's going on here. And what this episode also did was prove to us exactly when these episodes take place. 3 weeks after the blip. So between everybody coming back at the end of Endgame, and then Wanda talking to Hawkeye at Tony's funeral. What the hell happened? How did she get to New Jersey? Who told her that this was her home? And who told her that to make, like, somebody is behind this? So obviously now we know it's not Sword. But
Yeah.
we do know Sword is involved somehow because they're all Sword agents up in there. So there's still a
I
lot of
I
questions.
I with that, I think some people are saying that they're sword agents in Westview. I don't think they're sword agents. I think they're people from that town. It just said sword on top because that's the people who are looking
Maybe.
into it. I don't think they're sword agents. I think the only sword agent in there was Monica Rambeau. I think everyone else
Okay, that's
was
fair.
people of that town. And oh man, I just lost my thought. But that part, and that makes more sense to me because I wouldn't like it that if they were all sword agents.
Well, no, you know what? I take that back. I think you're right because it wouldn't make any sense. So
Yeah.
I'm on board with you that because obviously we saw the West View town
Logo.
sign, and it said how many people are in there. So that town is full of people. To me, it's just more question about like what do like do they know what Wanda is doing, and is somebody telling them, "Hey, shut the hell up." Like, let her believe what you let her have do her thing and like let it go. Or
I
are these
think the
people just
town's under a spell. I think the entire town is.
yeah, like yeah,
Yeah.
like and just go along with it, or she'll destroy you or something. Like
Yeah. I think
just
the
like she
only
did to
one that's
Monica.
in the know of what's going on is Agnes, is Catherine
Well,
Hahn's
because
character.
she's something
Yeah.
else. Like
Yeah,
we
she's
already
something.
know that. Yeah,
And I think everyone else
and
is
Dottie is probably
un
something else too.
yeah. And people, this is a crack theory out there, and it'd be really interesting if it's true, but people are joking. They're like, what if Dottie is like Emma Frost?
No,
I don't
that's not
like
gonna
that.
happen.
I
That's
don't
not gonna
like that,
happen.
but I've seen that crack theory out there,
They're
and I'm
not.
just,
They're not
yeah.
introducing the X Men in a TV show. I'm sorry, they're not gonna do that. Now you could plant some seeds in there for because a lot of people are saying like all this cosmic stuff that they're talking about. Oh, and how we're short astronauts. That can pay off when
I think
eventually
this is
they're
gonna
gonna.
pay off to
Yeah,
Fantastic Four.
but they're not gonna show the Fantastic Four in this
Yeah, I
movie.
don't
I
think
mean,
so
the show. Are
either.
you crazy? No way. But they're planting the seed because they know they're eventually gonna get there. Now,
Hmm.
if you want to tease the X Men in this, then fine, you can do that. But to actually show them, never, no way.
Do you
That's
think
never gonna
that a
happen.
lower level mutant, like someone with that is not as popular, could show up in this show?
No,
No.
no, I don't think so. Like because what is a human in the Marvel Cinematic Universe? What is it?
Do you think that, and this is something too that I saw, like that Monica Rambeau, that she got powers because of being sucked in and sucked out. That transition between that CMBR, I think is what it,
Yeah.
the waves, that's going to give her powers. Do you think that it's possible that these people in this town, if taken out or something, could end up getting powers from being in that town and having to go through that barrier?
I mean, I don't know. That's a good point because obviously when Jimmy Woo was like, I can't go in, it won't let me.
Yeah,
But
but it
somehow
let
Monica
Monica.
was able to get sucked in. So it's a matter of was she sucked in because she has powers? Was she sucked in because she's going on her own journey of loss, just like Wanda is? Because remember, it's not that long after like Vision died, and then she got put back, and now she's here. So she's still dealing with potentially her brother dying and Vision dying. So she's dealing with some PTSD, and then now Monica literally just got flipped back, and he's just like, "Oh, your mom's dead." So like she's dealing with her own issues now too. So it's kind of like they're both dealing with loss. So maybe the bubble spoke to her in a way it didn't for Jimmy because hey, you're in need of escape too. Come be with me. The same thing that's probably maybe called to Wanda in a moment of her being like stressed out and like needing a place to feel like more at ease. Maybe something in that town is saying like, "Hey, here you can do whatever you want. You want to be with Vision, be with Vision. You want to
I
have
like that idea.
this you like sitcoms growing up, you can have your own sitcom and like all these kinds of just make this whatever you want." And maybe because if something like that is the case, then because Monica is dealing with her own loss, it could have spoke to her like, yeah, come here. You can be whatever you can do whoever you be with whoever you want to be because like as soon as she got there she's like, I don't know what I'm doing here.
Hmm.
She got wrapped up in it too.
She
It took
got
her a
wrapped up
while to
in the
kind of
story.
like,
Yeah.
oh wait. So there's the biggest mystery is yet to be revealed. What is actually going on in that town? Because
Hmm.
someone, she just Wanda doesn't miraculously wake up like, yeah, I'm just gonna take over a town in New Jersey, right?
Of all
And
places.
pretend it's a sitcom, like, and make this sitcom. She just didn't wake up one day and decide to do that. Someone either is manipulating her to do it because they're trying to make her
The
feel like
holding
this
out
is
for Mephisto.
if possible. Something is not either could not controlling or convincing her that this is the right thing to do. She when she said this is we can't leave, this is home, made me 100% think that something is behind her feeling this way. And the fact that when Monica revealed herself to be her, she's like, "You're not a friend to me because you're threatening what I was told will be a safe space. You're invading my, you're trespassing on what I. This is my like the show's called WandaVision. It's a play on the words.
Hmm.
It's Wanda's vision of what her ideal world now.
I have two like points to play off, so I think possibly too that Wanda, the reason why she said this is home is I think like you and I both predicted this on Pop Talk that Vision in the future is going to be alive again. I think right now he's currently still dead.
Yeah.
And especially we saw the two with like when saw that like that horror s thing. I think the reason she said this is home is because this is the only place where she could actually interact with Vision because whatever magic is going on in that town allows her to still have Vision. Where if they were outside of that town, she wouldn't be able to be with Vision. So I think that part is there. And then the other is this just popped up into my head. I was like, what if they change Maria Rambo's backstory? Because they do that from comics. They take little
Yeah, of
itty bitty
course they do.
things and they change things and change back. What if the reason she was allowed in there is because she had an X gene and then that was activated by being put through? And that's kind of I don't think maybe we'll know that they're mutants, but it will set the seeds that anyone who goes through that barrier is because they have an X gene or they have something of that thing that will then be activated. And that's why they were able to go through.
Well, they're getting back. Someone's getting in. Like it's just a
Yeah.
matter of how they're getting in because something is happening in that town for her not to be like because in theory she could do that anywhere. She can her powers are they're pretty much telling us her powers are strong enough where she could do whatever she wants. So if she wants to envision vision to be alive, she could do that outside that town. But
I
there's
think she
some
needs help. I think she
well, yeah, but
needs
that's what I'm
help.
saying. There's something in that town, that area in Westview, that's giving her, maybe enhancing her
I think
abilities.
if Agnes is Agatha Christie, which is a witch, I think it could be both of them together using their power, possibly with help from Mephisto or not. That's them two creating. I don't think Wanda right now. I think she has the possibility with that power in the future, and she's starting to know what kind of power she has because I think she is the strongest MCU person at the moment before it was Carol Danvers. I think the more further along
It's
we go,
possible.
she's going to be the strongest. But I think at the beginning of making that that town be under that spell, I think she needed help, and I think that help was Agnes, and I think that um that they just picked that place. We need to find out why they picked that place in particular, but I think that she wouldn't have been able to do that on her own at the beginning.
Yeah,
And
I
so
don't think that.
she couldn't just do it anywhere with
Well,
Vision.
to not to a certain degree she could, but not to the extent. I agree. Like I don't
Yeah.
think they picked that. There's something there. Like it's either if it's Mephisto or Dormammu, there's something there. There's a reason
And
why it has to
it
be
could be close
there.
to where Cap trained in New Jersey in Captain America.
Yeah,
Do you think that there's possibly anything like remnants of Shield or any remnants of that
maybe.
base that it could be close to where they are in New Jersey?
Maybe. I mean, that's a possibility, but there's something there. And what if what is there is siphoning her power or getting stronger by getting having Wanda use her power?
I mean, that's what Mephisto did in the comics. Especially
Yeah,
that's why she
so
had the babies was
yeah,
Mephisto
because
taking power
if you
from
look
her.
at Agnes's especially in the first two episodes, she's there to help Wanda keep the fantasy going. she's like, and she's like, hey, well, you don't have a wedding ring. Like, you gotta, like, come on, girl. You can't have, if you're gonna create this world, you have to have, because she
But look at
knows.
the star of the show, and then she brings out the bunny, but like that
Yeah,
kind of
but like, because she knows if she doesn't have answers to these questions, the illusions, you start to see the cracks in the foundation, and the fantasy is going to break down, and whatever the real reason why they're there will be revealed to us. Like,
Mhm.
Agatha already knows this. So that's why she's like, "Hey, where's your wedding ring? What's your anniversary?" Like, you have to have answers to these questions, because when these people who are real people come and interact with you, they're gonna ask you these things, and if you don't answer it, it's gonna be awkward, and then people are
Mhm.
gonna start wondering. You're gonna start wondering, and like Vision wonders, because Vision doesn't know what the hell's going on. He's like, I don't know.
Although I think he's starting to
He's starting to question things.
starting to question things, starting to he's probably gonna in the next few episodes start figuring stuff out himself out because there is the moment where he's looking straight to camera and he looks terrified.
Oh yeah, because he doesn't know what's going on. He's basically us in there. It's like, I don't know what's happening, but I'm going along with it anyway because I love Wanda. He doesn't. He's just like, he doesn't know what's going on. He's just along for the ride. So it's like he's doing the whole sitcom thing, and then she's like in the first episode, "Hey, save him," and he just does it. So like, he doesn't understand what's going on. He knows, but he doesn't know. So he's
Mhm.
along the ride just like we are. So for me, I'm really really loving the way they've have teased us with so many different possibilities, and I think all the people who like, oh, I don't like this show, I didn't like the sitcom stuff, we're gonna get more of it. So don't think that just because the episode 4, which was had no sitcom stuff, we're still getting it. We still
Yeah,
have to
we're
go through
still
the
getting
80s. We still got to go
we
through
still
the
have Full
90s.
House and
Yeah, we have
Roseanne.
full. Yeah, and I think we're gonna get like a Modern Family type one. So we're still getting sitcom stuff now. Whether it's going to be like a sitcom episode and then
Or a
full,
half and half
or are
or
they gonna
yeah.
split it up? We don't know. I mean, you could do whatever you want at this point. I don't care. But we're still gonna get sitcom now. Are we gonna get longer segments of that? It remains to be seen. But we're still going back to sitcom land. At the end of episode 4, told you that she pretty much was like, "All right, what are we gonna watch now?" It's pretty much her
Mhm.
telling you, "Yep, we're going from the '70s
And the
and we're gonna
Please
move
Stand
into the '80s."
By.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So that has a double meaning now in this too. Now,
Yeah.
please stand by for more TV stuff. So I love WandaVision. To me, the only way this show could end up in the history of the things being considered bad, if the payoff of whatever is doing this to Wanda falls flat.
Yeah. I agree.
But but until then, I'm enjoying the ride because I'm a fan of like, old sitcoms. I used to love watching them back in the day, like Honeymooners and all that kind of stuff. So I got what they were doing there, and they would sprinkle, the mystery was enough. Like, what is going on here? I enjoyed that. And then seeing like the commercials and everything, like the intrigue there, and then just seeing the performance of Elizabeth Olsen. If she doesn't get nominated for an Emmy,
Right.
then I don't know what the Emmys are for anymore. Because when we cut in episode 4, when we cut back to what she actually did to Monica, that
Yeah.
like, you're not my friend, you're trespassing. I want you out of here. That like, I want you, like that performance of her just walking up so menacing, because we know Wanda could do whatever she wants. Like, it's very obvious she could do whatever she wants. And for her just to like, boom, get out of here, and then her bust through those walls and just like spit out, and then just kind of watching what she did, and it's like, oh, this isn't right. Fix it, and then just go about my business. Of Vision saying, oh, where is she? Oh, she had to go.
And the skip too.
Yeah,
When
well,
Darcy's watching it, anything that breaks the illusion is getting skipped in the episode
yeah, and I
that
don't think
Darcy's watching.
Wanda's not doing that.
Yeah.
Because to her, the skip doesn't happen. It happens
Mhm.
for us, the viewer. We
Yes.
see the skip. Wanda, well, except for when she said no,
I think that was
we see
the
the
only
rewind.
time she did it. I think if we see a
Well,
rewind, it's Wanda. If we
what?
see a
Yeah,
skip,
skip. Yeah,
it's
yeah.
someone else.
Because she rewinded when Vision came back and said like in the second episode she
Yep.
rewind.
Yeah, the
She
second
rewinded.
episode
That's
was
it.
a rewind, but the other
Yeah.
one when she was talking to Vision, that was a skip. And so
Yes.
I
Yeah.
think they're telling us that it's something different. That
Yes.
this is
Absolutely.
different. But any final thoughts or predictions on WandaVision, Sean?
I mean, I predicting at this point it's hard because everybody thought that B person like, oh, that's like I remember saying, oh, that's gonna be important. It wasn't. Like all I'm saying is that there's a reason why it's happening where it's happening. It's not a coincidence. So there's something in that town, either siphoning Wanda's powers or enhancing something. There's a reason why she's there. That she feels like she needs to be there. Someone told her that. Who told her that? And what is the real reason she has to stay there? And the real reason why it's a sitcom. Those are the two biggest questions, well, three questions now that remain to be answered. And I'm just fascinated to enjoy the next 5 episodes until we get the answer. Because we are going to get the answer. Paul Bettany says we're going to know what happens goes on with Vision. So also what happens with Vision going forward, and are those kids going to end up some way somehow staying real?
Mm-hmm.
Because we know they're going towards Young Avengers. We know.
Yeah.
So are these kids going to be a part of it? So are we going to see them super age up really quick? Like we know at some point there's going to be
I
like a
think
Halloween
they're gonna go
scene.
from not being real to being real, but I don't know if they're gonna go to being real in WandaVision or if they're gonna go to being real in a future movie or show.
Maybe, yeah, that's a possibility because we know like there's a Halloween episode, so it would make sense that her kids are going to be dressing up and then going trick or treating and all that stuff because then they dress up too. So it would make sense to me that their kids are
For the
going to be,
children.
for the children. Hopefully, there's actually other children
Yeah.
in there.
Which
That's another thing.
I
Where are the
think when we
children?
saw the trailer there was children in there, but then also it could be an MCU trick where you know how they put Hulk in that trailer for Infinity War and then he wasn't actually in
Yeah.
it.
Now what? So this just came to me.
Okay.
What if this whole thing is for Wanda's children? It's for the children. Those children.
Yeah.
Those two. So maybe this whole thing
I think
potentially could be
yep.
about getting those kids some way somehow. So I
I
like,
think the reason they were saying for the children, and then at the end of the episode she was pregnant, and then the next episode she had those kids. I think they were incepting the idea of Wanda having kids because you saw at the beginning of the episode too, where she was just like, "Oh, let's not get ahead of ourselves." When Agnes suggested children to her,
yeah.
and so then she kept hearing for the children, and then she's like happy about being pregnant at the end of episode 2, and then she's in those moments they're like where she's painting the stork and she's getting the baby room ready. She seems happy about having children, and I think it was one of if that episode was there to convince Wanda to have kids.
Yeah, but you can go back to the first one. Well, what about kids? Because then you're like, that's what you do, Wanda. You have kids. This is what you do.
And those kids siphoned some of her power
Yeah, maybe so.
away in the
Like,
comics.
yeah, so like, cause almost every line in these shows have double meaning. So
Hmm.
it means something to them, and it means something different for us as viewers, knowing that what they're trying to uh, convey to us. So this show is just like all this could be bullshit. At the end of the day, like we could both be 1,000% wrong, or we could be right.
And we could be
Who knows?
completely happy about it too.
Well,
That
I
we're
mean,
wrong.
at the end of the day, I think this show is going to be great to binge watch because they're not
Speculate
all long.
responsibly, people.
Yeah, they're not all long. So you people are gonna, and I'm pretty sure the people who are falling off after the first 2 episodes,
They'll come back.
they'll come back once everything comes out. Especially if they stick the landing on this, which I believe in Kevin Feige.
Yeah, I think they
I
will.
believe he's gonna stick the landing. Once they do that, people are gonna be like, all nighter, binge watch. Oh, this was great. So the people that they've lost,
They're coming back.
they'll get some of
Yeah.
them back because when they could just digest it
Especially
Binge
when it's
watch.
needed for future MCU things, because I think so. I
Yeah,
think this is needed to. It's setting up for Fantastic Four. We already know this is setting up for Doctor Strange. We've heard that this is a setup too for Spider-Man 3. Like this is
yes.
probably going to be a setup for other things in the MCU that we haven't even we don't even know yet. So I think if you're an MCU fan, you're going to have to watch this.
Well, yeah. Well, Kevin Feige said these are they're direct ties to Doctor Strange 2 and direct ties to Spider-Man 3 Home Prom or whatever it's going to be called. So you have to some degree watch this show to fully well, not fully, to somewhat understand what's happening, because somehow some way in WandaVision she's going to completely break the multiverse. That is how all these Spider-Men are going to come in. That's how that happens. So something that's happening to her in these next 5 episodes, which we got a small taste of it in episode 4, something's going to she's going to get so angry or so going mad that maybe she really realizes that Vision is gone forever, and she just can't take it anymore. Like, I
And
lost my
then
brother, I lost Vision.
John.
Maybe the kids she can't get back for some, and she snaps and she
Mhm.
breaks reality, and then they have
A
to that
different snap.
yeah, a different snap, and then that the consequences are shown in Spider-Man, which hopefully we still get at the end of this year, and then next year in Doctor Strange 2. So is she going to be the villain in Doctor Strange 2? Maybe.
I think so, but we're going to see. So I think you and I could talk about WandaVision forever, but we have been talking for 2 hours, so we should probably end it
Oh my
there.
god, we've been talking for 2 hours.
But
It's all
Sean,
Soul's fault. I'm
where
just
can
kidding.
the
This
people
was a great
find you?
conversation. Ah, jeez. So I just recently got on Twitter, so you can find me at Sean Barriteau on Twitter. Um, I gotta get more comfortable tweeting things. That'd be interesting. You can also find me on the Pop Culture Universe channels. So you can follow us, like and subscribe there, as well. Soul is on there too. We're still trying to. We used to do a lot of trailer reviews and movie reviews. We have a show called We Have the High Ground. We talk where
All
Boggs
the
and
Star
Colin
Wars.
talk about Star Wars. We're trying to do some other things off the ground. So we're kind of, because we took a lot of step back in 2020, like a lot of things did, and we're just slowly trying to figure our way back. So be patient with us while we kind of come all the way back. But in the meantime, though, having this long 2 hour conversation, this was great. So it can only be a 2 hour conversation if the conversation was good. So thank you for having me on your show.
Thank you for being here, and you're welcome back anytime. You can follow me at SoulGovan on Twitter. You can follow me at soul.k.govan on Instagram. You can follow me over at the Pop Culture Universe YouTube channel. You can also see me on John Roca's YouTube channel every Saturday for the Ultimate Schmoedown Show, where Sean is there. I'm learning the ways with StreamYards. Sean is our producer over there. And yeah, so go check all those things out. I'm also going to be now every Saturday on Get Sweaty. We changed from Sundays to Saturdays. So go check all of those things out. And have a great week, everyone. Wear your mask, stay safe, and goodbye.